This week in Pure Reinvention.
I do want it to be part of my legacy that I helped women identify, one, that it's okay to be a successful executive, to get the job done, and you don't have to be the second or the assistant, but you can want and vie and go for that top job.
Podcast number 44, Cindy Bowen, General Manager, Crowne Plaza Lansing West.
Engage, disrupt, adapt, repeat. You're listening to Pure Reinvention, the podcast for curious people.
Welcome to this edition of Pure Reinvention, where our mission is to create space for the unexpected by inspiring a reinvention lifestyle that's fueled by curiosity, fortified with courage, and activated through practice. Misty Miller, welcome. How are you?
Mike, I am doing great, and after that, I'm all fired up to pure reinvent something.
Well, let's do that, because Misty, you know, we've talked many times about what the mission of Pure Reinvention really is, but I think we've been able to distill that down into a really strong message, which tells people that we, like them, are interested in the what's next, in how do we create success, whether we're a professional individual, whether it's our own life, whether it's a business that we're leading. The ability to know how to reinvent things is a critical skill that I believe through listening to our podcast and being a part of our experiences, we help people to grow and to succeed.
I think so. And today we're talking to somebody, or we have an interview with someone that has learned how to kind of reinvent an industry that has been really male-dominated.
I've been really impressed to have been working with Cindy Bowen for a number of years. She's a board member of the Michigan Lodging and Tourism Association. She's a successful executive at the Crowne Plaza Lansing West. What I really didn't realize, Misty, about Cindy's background was she was a pioneer. She's been a pioneer in a mostly male-dominated space, and has been able to carve out her own very rich success story.
I was kind of surprised in Florida because I had never thought about it, but when she said I had to seek out male role models because there weren't a lot of women, there wasn't a great source of female role models for me to look to. And that was, say, 25 years ago, and it makes sense, but I just never thought about it. Women that were pioneering in that day didn't have a lot of other female examples.
When Cindy said that during the interview, I was really taken back because I had always watched Cindy as she was performing at the board level or as an executive level leading her team at the Crowne Plaza, in which she does a phenomenal job. To think that there was 25 years ago a point in time when she didn't have those skills and didn't know how to do those things, I think, Misty, it takes me back to the core essence of why we're doing this, and that is Cindy will tell you that was not easy for any professional to have to learn as you go and to learn those lessons on your own. How nice it would have been to have had the Pure Reinvention team to have helped to introduce some of the concepts that she learned through trial and error. And how nice it would have been to have been able to work with other individuals that she could have reached out to that would have broadened her experience level and really helped her be as successful as she is now, but had done it in a much faster time frame. Instead of growing during that time, she could have been succeeding at a much higher level. And knowing Cindy and the way she likes to accomplish, I think that's what she would have preferred.
Well, what's interesting is, although I said that I was surprised that she said that, it hasn't changed much. Females, and speaking from a female perspective here, females are still looking for real good sources of female leadership and female role models. They're still kind of hard to come by in a lot of industries, not just the hospitality one that Cindy's working in. And although she didn't get the benefit of Pure Reinvention, we get the benefit of her today because, as you'll also hear in this interview, Cindy Bowen is on our advisory council for our women side of Pure Reinvention, which we're calling WE.INVENT. And we have our inaugural event coming up on October 23rd. So if there are any women listeners out there that are interested in seeing this circle of awesomeness, as we like to call it, this is this all-girls club where we get together. We're going to be doing some really fun things. The girls and Mike have been...
A few selected other individuals.
And the girls of Pure Reinvention and Mike have been working and planning this and doing a great job. So we invite you to learn more at PureReinvention.com or email us at hello@PureReinvention.com for more information.
So, Misty, let's have people listen to this interview. Listen especially for the part where where Cindy starts to talk about the WE.INVENT experience that she has helped to be a leader within. And then when we come back after the interview, let's talk more about that, okay?
That sounds perfect.
Welcome to this edition of Pure Reinvention. We're very fortunate today to have Cindy Bowen. Cindy is the general manager of the Crowne Plaza Lansing West, where she has held that position for the last 23 years. Welcome, Cindy.
Thank you, Mike. Glad to be here and join you.
Cindy, in today's age, being 23 years in an executive position is just an outstanding accomplishment. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I didn't get here through any traditional route, and as I look back, that tends to be a pattern in my life and in my progress in my career. But I was invited. I tell the story to hospitality students. I was invited to come work in this industry and learned rather quickly that what the industry needs from a leader paralleled what I got satisfaction from and some skill sets that I had developed, being the oldest of 6 children.
Sure.
So 33 years ago, I was asked to entertain a position with the industry and worked my way up. So didn't go to college for hospitality, started in banking, and here I am.
But interestingly enough, 23 years later, you have obviously led this organization through tremendous change. The Crowne Plaza has been a leader in this mid-Michigan marketplace for a number of years, and obviously under your leadership, you've been able to sustain that. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Cindy, you also have been on the executive board of the Michigan Lodging and Tourism Association. In fact, that's where our paths really crossed. For those listeners who are listening to this podcast, I had become aware of Cindy Bowen many, many, many years ago as this executive who was very accomplished in the mid-Michigan area, but hadn't had a chance to actually meet her and work with her until I was asked to be a part of the Michigan Lodging and Tourism Association as they were going through their strategic planning process. So, Cindy, could you tell us a little bit about why it was important for the association to go through that process and a little bit about what that process was?
Well, it was important, Mike, because we continue to look at our value proposition to our members and what members were looking for from association with the organization was changing. And we knew, and I believe, being a business leader and a leader in any organization, nowadays it's about relevance, continuing to find your relevance to your customer, your member, your client, whoever
Sure.
that base is. And we had to make some changes.
So you had felt at the executive board level that the current path that the business was on had an opportunity to change. Can you explain a little of the communication that went on at the executive board level and whether they were pro for looking at change, whether there was some different thoughts that were being entertained at the time, and how you were able to encourage the organization to look at the future and to look at the opportunities that existed for the association?
As I said, we were continuing to refine maybe some things that we had done for so long and not seeing the results from that and kind of step back. And I know personally that's how I am. If I feel like I'm kind of beating my head against the wall, I step back and say, wait a minute, let's just change it up.
Sure.
And certainly change is difficult for a lot of people typically, so there was some resistance of let's just continue to look and tweak what we know we've already done for decades versus, what do you mean really shake this up? And thanks to your help, we stepped back and said we need to redefine, for me, we needed to redefine our purpose and look more strategically at what we needed to do and be as an organization versus continuing to look at what we were offering and try to make that better.
So from your perspective, you see that having a new direction, allows both the business and the board of directors to maintain a certain degree of accountability to each other to do their part to accomplish these new objectives.
Absolutely. I also see that there's a different level of trust when you're treading in territory that's new for everyone, and that you have to trust each other to the genuine intentions of what you're there to accomplish, and you have to trust each other to do as you've committed you will do, either as a board member or as staff. And that's actually a feel-good thing when you get over the little kind of twist in your tummy once in a while because you're not sure how it's going to go.
Yeah, this is an interesting topic. So let's talk about this for a while. This issue of trust, which I assume you're talking about more toward board members towards each other.
Correct.
When you get into this new space, now you do have to trust the experiences and the backgrounds of the other person because you're in that new space. How did you watch other board members as they found themselves now having to trust in a new space as opposed to just following the old path?
I think it opened up definitely more dialogue. And we were not, I think back about being a board member for a long time and how we really evaluated the processes and the things the staff would do or were expected to do. And now we feel our responsibility is to steward and shepherd the strategic plan and the vision and help them get that done and hold each other accountable of not getting in each other's way.
Right. And in a new space, this is a really interesting topic that we just really haven't spent a lot of time talking about. In this new space, which reinvention certainly is, there is a certain amount of trust that you have to make sure everybody's background, you're bringing everybody's background and experience forward to help learn what it is we need to be doing going forward because the specifics are not as clear.
Correct.
And in the past, as you're talking about most boards or some boards who monitor the specifics, it's easy to then just check certain things off the list.
Right.
Rather than review the whole new engineering plan that's about to go into play.
Correct.
That is really interesting. Let's then think about you are about to move into the role of the chairman of the board. That will happen about 6 months from now.
Correct.
And you will hold that position in a very interesting time because the association will have had about 2 years of learning about reinvention. It's now hitting its high gear where it's really starting to move forward. How do you view your role as the chairman now in this area of trust and accountability and shepherding the association forward?
I look at it as now that we're be halfway through it, that we're all more comfortable, so I don't have to help everyone understand what it's supposed to look like and feel like. We should have that at that point. So now it's going to be continuing to be the keepers of the vision and moving it forward and helping staff get done what they need to do and not get in their way.
You have a passion, and that topic is the development of the professional female. Can you tell us a little bit about your passion for that topic, where that came from, and kind of where your thoughts are now in your career in terms of being a positive mentor for many females?
It started with as I started progressing in my career and had huge aspirations for myself. I did not have a personal female role model. Nothing against the women in my life and generations in my family, but I didn't have that to turn to, so I turned to mostly males that I worked with, and there are some different dynamics with that. As well, one thing that really was a catalyst for me as I was entertaining and had a vision to be a general manager of a hotel, I was told about 25 years ago that no female would be the general manager of this hotel in particular.
Really?
Now, I'm not saying that's by anyone in authority at that time, but
Sure.
the sentiment was they would never place a
That was out
female
of reach.
general manager. And really at the time, and for a long time coming, I was the only female general manager of a full-service hotel in the state of Michigan for quite a while, and I'm glad to see that's changing. So for several reasons, I want to help young females. One, I want to be the person they see that has done it and accomplished it, and I want to be a positive role model in that regard, and I want to help influence them and help make the path a little maybe less resistant or easier for them than it was for me.
What were probably a couple of, as you reflect back on those early years where you had to kind of sustain through the no, you can't do that chatter. What were a couple of the key characteristics that you had that allowed you to work through all of the barriers towards the success in your career?
I have tremendous tenacity and I'm unrelentless if someone tells me something's not possible.
They don't want to tell you no.
I will find a way to make it possible.
Happen.
I just think because I truly believe to be true of several industry, this one, there are just some skill sets that more instinctively come to women that I think are perfect for
So talk
the
about a couple of those things.
hospitality
What are a
industry.
couple of the key characteristics that you believe make this an ideal environment for the development of top female executives?
The general mission of what we do is taking care of people, whether it's our guest or our associates, and so that comes instinctively. I believe that we are collaborators. I believe when, as a female in this industry, when we're faced with an opportunity or a challenge or a problem, which term is your preference, that we are more looking to different solutions than traditional solutions that have been known to always work. So we are more comfortable trying different solutions, which when you're dealing with people, that's always something good to have in your toolkit, is a different way to resolve a problem because all people are different.
So if the world we are coming from tends to be more the same, more male-dominated, let's say, and the world we're moving to tends to be more diverse. And, of course, diversity can be more than gender diversification, as you well know. Do you see the same kinds of would you describe the ability for a female to succeed the same way with all of the diversity characteristics? So, in other words, whether we're talking about an ethnic background, whether we're talking about an economic variation, do all of those diverse backgrounds help an individual to see different solutions and collaborate in a way that gives an executive with that background actually an advantage?
Absolutely, because I believe our customer base, our employees, everyone has individual and different expectations and are very different than they were, I know, 30 years ago for me. So the more diversity you can have in input in coming to those solutions or considerations make for a better outcome.
How does an executive bring in that diverse thought process into their own decision making? How do you as an executive begin to ask or encourage that diversity of opinion so that you can use it in your leadership?
It's interesting, Mike, that you say that, because I remember in my early years of my career development, they talked about as a professional you need to identify your weakness and really strengthen your weakness. Mm-hmm. Now they say hire to your weakness and utilize your strengths as they are. And so that's truly what I do. I don't apologize anymore for certain areas. I like numbers and finance, but that's not my wheelhouse that I want to spend a large amount of time in. So I will look to bring in individuals who have strengths, not necessarily even just skill sets, but strengths and differences in geographic areas where they've worked, different social groups that they come from. So I'm very mindful of making sure that they say don't hire those like you, hire those who bring very different strengths to you.
So you are actually living this diversity issue where you prefer to not have people like you as a part of your executive team.
Absolutely.
You are probably an executive who has more demands placed on you than time available. Would that be correct to say?
That's pretty close.
Yet you have chosen to assist us in being on the advisory council for an initiative we're putting together with women in leadership, those females who are in their growth phase. But the reason you're doing that is because of your passion and wanting to help executive. Why did you choose to invest your time with that initiative?
In my life, some things that I've learned is to connect yourself with good people doing good things, and I think this is going to be huge and significant, and it's going to be life-changing for people. I do want it to be part of my legacy that I helped women identify one that it's okay to be a successful executive,
absolutely.
to get the job done, and you don't have to be the second or the assistant, but you can want and vie and go for that top job.
I think, Cindy, one of the things that I've learned from you is how when you invest your time wisely, that then good things happen. Cindy's referring to a new event that we're piloting on Friday, October the 23rd, where we're going to take a group of women into the city of Detroit and have a wonderful day of experiencing a world in which there are numerous females who are making a tremendous difference in the world. And we're just very excited, Cindy, to have you be a part of the leadership group that's helping to not only put that together, but then help us assess and make that a powerful experience. Because like you, we have a passion for helping individuals succeed in that space. That experience and other experiences like that are the reason that Pure Reinvention is in existence. Cindy, I want to thank you very much for your time today, for sharing. You are a remarkable story and a remarkable person, and we are very, very thankful to have had a little bit of your time today. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Well, I'd say that we learned something from the conversation with Cindy about what it's like to be a pioneer in an industry and also to have a passion for helping other people maybe not have to experience the same grind that Cindy did and the same learning curve.
I think you're absolutely right, Misty. I think during this time frame where we did the podcast, I actually learned a ton about Cindy, not from where she's been or where her real focus is, but where her passion is. I think at the end, Cindy really was able to communicate what her true passion is, and that is she wants to be in a place where she's able to make a difference and really inspire and mentor and help other females on this same journey to succeed.
Mm-hmm. I think our female advisory council is really fortunate to have her and have her insight. And the other women that make up the advisory council have just as much experience, but maybe a little bit different. You talked about diversity of thought, and we've done a good job at pulling that on the WE.INVENT advisory council. And I think that the people who become part of that will really see that they can grow and learn from women of all different industries, all different spots in their career, and it's exciting.
Pure Reinvention is a diverse thought. Pure Reinvention is a different thought than maybe the standard and typical approach. So when you think about how Pure Reinvention approaches diversity, as Cindy talked about, diversity is the integral component to the next generation of thought, whether it's an age diversity, whether it's a gender diversity or ethnic diversity. Cindy's understanding of diversity was what was at the core of her drive. Then, when you add her passion for what she wants to help others not go through what she went through, it makes me really realize that the part of the message, then the takeaway in this segment with Cindy, is that question that everyone has to ask themselves: what is your passion? And how do you take your passion and start to correlate that into making a difference in other people's lives and in other people's careers?
So women, if you're listening, again, you can find out more at www.pureinvention.com or just shoot us an email at hello@pureinvention.com to get more information about registration. I think it's a day you'll find totally worth the time and a great collaborative place where women can build each other up and have a little fun doing it. So what else did we learn from Cindy, Mike?
Well, Misty, I think what we learned is there's a lot of opportunity going forward for all of us to continue to grow. That it doesn't really matter what our age is, that what we really have to do is have that passion, as Cindy described, that passion to always want to be the best that we can be. And I want to, go back and really thank Cindy for the work that she's done and for her sharing what she has shared, because it's helped even me remind me that our takeaway for everyone is have you had an interaction with somebody which has left them in a better place than when you started? And have you been able to take your passion and move that forward to make a difference in other people's lives?
Cindy said something great kind of early on in your conversation with her about how going through this new strategic plan with MLTA as a board member, but working closely with the executive director, Steve Jensich, who we had a conversation with last week, they went from, people just kind of in the weeds, sort of in the muck, to these people that shepherded the plan, shepherded the vision. And I really liked what that was saying. That was another way of saying having the 30,000-foot view, right? Because we've got the plan in place. Now we have to make sure it keeps moving forward.
The experience around that table was very wise in that they didn't want the typical strategic plan. They wanted something that was very simple, very easy for everyone to focus on. I think the 3 or 4 benchmarks that they put in place within a very short period of time, Misty, we're talking like 24 months. Within 24 months, every single indicator that they were measuring was up. Their focus was solid. Now, not every indicator was up as high as what they had set the initial goal at, but every indicator that they had focused on and really put energy toward started to move in a very positive direction.
And she had to do that by breaking old patterns and habits at the board level and at the staff level.
Cindy was absolutely at the core essence of understanding that those benchmarks had to be in place, that we had to hold people accountable to those, and that if we needed help, it was okay to broaden our scope of help. In other words, ask for more horsepower. The association learned that instead of hiring people, they could rent the horsepower they needed for certain areas. And by renting that horsepower and aligning that energy to those focuses, that was what was able to move those metrics forward. And for a smaller organization like MLTA that was on a very big growth curve and didn't have the depth of assets to just throw money at everything, they got very creative and made a huge difference in their success pattern.
So you asked Cindy a great question about what, as the incoming chair, what was her role or how did she see herself? And I thought that was a phenomenal question. And when she was describing that, she said, we're not so worried about the look and feel anymore. We're worried about moving it forward. And then she called the board keepers of the vision.
Isn't that cool?
How cool is that?
Yeah, that is. See, and so you go back to that ownership question and you go back to that passion. A lot of boards and a lot of board leadership comes in and gives the energy for the day or for the few hours that they have their meeting. That group, and especially Cindy, has accepted that role at their core. And so they live it, they breathe it, they think it. It becomes as important to them as their day job. And in fact, they laugh and say, if you bring the same intensity to MLTA that you bring to your day job, in other words, bring your day hat with you, then MLTA and its mission will be successful. And I think under Cindy's guidance, as she moves into the chairperson's role, you will see that accountability. The first person who will accept that accountability will be Cindy Bowen and her role in the next level of success.
I think that board has a leader they can respect in Cindy and learn from, and that's really great for them.
I think you're absolutely right, Misty. I think they're very fortunate, and I think all boards need to look for those individuals willing to perform at a level that Cindy Bowen is at the Michigan Lodging and Tourism Association.
Well, thanks for listening today. And remember, if you're ready to make a change, make it a change that lasts. Make it Pure Reinvention.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Pure Reinvention. Keep the conversation going and get alerts when new podcasts are up by following us on Twitter at Pure Reinvention or sign up for our mailing list at PureReinvention.com.